Hello, sixth graders. Today we are going to talk about equivalent fractions and how to come up with those equivalencies. So the way that we find equivalent fractions is we can skip count, butterfly, or simplify. So first we need to answer this question. It says, which of the following is equivalent to 8 over 12? And hopefully at this point we know that equivalent means equal. And we are comparing this to 8 over 12. But if I'm looking at my answer choices, none of them have an 8 and a 12. So obviously, I'm going to have to do something here. So our first thing that we need to talk about is my Joe Schmo in this answer. And hopefully we know that Joe Schmoes are the silly answers. So if my answer is 8 over 12, which is what we're looking at right here, my Joe is going to be A, because all they did was switch the top and the bottom. That is what we call a Joe in this situation, and that is definitely not correct. You cannot just switch the numbers and say that they are equivalent. So now we have 2/3, 16 over 36, and 2 over 4. So let's talk about skip counting first. Skip counting. So you should be familiar with this with multiplication, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That is skip counting, 5, 10, 15, 20. So what we are going to do, again, we are trying to get to 8 over 12. That is our goal. We want to know what's equivalent to that. So first we're going to take B, which is 2/3. So I'm going to take 2/3 and I am going to skip count to try to get to 8 over 12. I'm going to take 16 over 36 and 2/4. So all of my answer choices, and we want to see if we can get to 8 over 12. So let's start on the first one. So on the top here, I'm going to skip count by 2 until I get to 8. So 2, 4, 6, 8. Perfect. I want to get to 8 because that's my top number over there. So now let's go on the bottom and skip count by 3s because 3s. And that's going to be the bottom of my fraction. So 3, 6, 9, 12. And again, those are my new fractions. So all of these fractions are equivalent to 2/3. They just have different numbers on them, but these are all equivalent. And if you notice, we have our 8/12s, which is what we wanted over here. So indeed, that is our equivalent fraction. So that's going to be my answer. Okay, but just for the sake of notes, let's look at the next one. So if I'm comparing 8 over 12 to 16 over 36, if I skip count this one, my numbers are only going to get bigger and I need to get smaller. So in this situation, we would take our 8/12s and skip count until we get to 16 or 36. So that's what we need to do in this situation. So let's skip count 8 over 12. Okay, so on the top, I'm going to count by 8. So 8, 16, and that's right here. But then on this bottom one, it's 12, 24. So since those two bottom numbers are not the same on this one, I have 16 over 24 and 16 over 36. Those are not equivalent. So that's not going to be my answer. Okay, and then on the bottom, sorry, that's a bad 2. We have a 2 over 4. So again, if we were going to skip count on the top, we would skip count by 2s until we get to 8. So 2, 4, 6, 8. And again, we want to get to 8 because that's the top of my fraction over here. And then let's skip count that bottom number. So on this one, we're counting by 4s. So 4, 8, 12, 16. And if I'm looking, 8 over 12, 8 over 16, those are not equivalent. So that's not going to be my answer either. So obviously 2/3 was my correct because when we skip counted, we got over 8 over 12, which is what we wanted in the first place. So my answer is B. So we can do that with skip counting. Let's talk about butterfly. So if we were doing butterfly, we would take our 8 over 12, which is from the original problem, 8 over 12, and we are going to take that 8 over 12, and we are going to butterfly it with our answer choices. So my first answer choice is 2/3, so we are going to put those right next to each other. So when I butterfly, what we are gonna do here is we are going to go corner to corner, and we are going to multiply those numbers. So corner to corner, 12 times 2 is 24. Again, 12 times 2 is 24. And I put that answer at the top. Next, I'm gonna do the other corner to corner, 3 to 8, and 3 times 8 is also 24. So now, if those two numbers match, these two are equivalent. So we already knew 2/3 was our answer from our skip counting, so the butterfly also makes it work. So let's just do the 2/4 just because. So if I wanted to see if 8/12 and 2/4 were equivalent, I would butterfly. So 12 times 2 is 24. And then on the other corner, 4 times 8 is 32. And again, those numbers this time are not equivalent, so we again know that 2/4 is definitely not my answer either. Okay, and lastly, we could simplify. So let's take our first fraction, 8/12. And some of you might know how to simplify. We are going to start with a 2, and we're going to try to take a 2 out of the 8. In other words, we divide the top number and the bottom number by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 4/6 is not an answer choice. So if we go back up to the top, that's not an answer choice. So we would have to simplify again. So divide by 2 again, and divide by 2 again. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So therefore, finally, every single one of them, 2/3 is our answer. So if we have a fraction and we want to know equivalent, we have options. We can skip count, we can butterfly, or simplify.